Yeah, it's rewind time.
Hello friends and welcome back to my channel. My name is Yaneli and today we're going to be talking about ilnp's Rewind collection. As a disclaimer, I did not purchase this collection myself. ilnp was nice enough to send it to me as gifted PR, meaning I'm not obligated to create content, post content, or do anything with this collection. However, I did want to showcase this collection to you all so you can get a general idea if this is something that you'd like to purchase. A little bit about this collection. It consists of 6 Crelly formula polishes, all to be muted pastels. This is not limited edition as far as I know, and I will have all the website information down below in the description box, so check that out if you want to get the official description of these polishes. I will have comparisons and my final thoughts near the end of the video, so stay tuned for that. And for now, let's get into swatching. Up first we have Lunchbox, and this is a pastel muted yellow with a dusting of hollow scattered throughout. When I first saw the color, it was giving very murky, particularly because of the hollow pigment that it has, it being more gray leaning, silver, whatever, and then paired with a very light shade. It kind of transcends into giving this polish more of a gray color or gray tint. On the first coat, I noticed that this was a very milky formula. That's like the best way I can describe it. First coat came out a little streaky, which is to be expected, especially with these pastel yellows. Like, they're notoriously known to not technically be the best at having nice coverage, essentially. I do like the way this polish looks with the hollow. However, as you layer on the coats, the hollow silver aspect of it becomes more prominent, and by the time I added my third coat, it almost gave the illusion that there was lint trapped in between my coats because the silver kind of pulled up more, and hollow's only beautiful to look at when in direct light, essentially. So the fact that with my lights around and me looking at my nail in the set lighting, it just looks like I have lint trapped in between my coats. So I like the color of the polish. I just don't really think the hollow pairs nicely with it. Continuing on the train of the hollow in this formula, it's so small that honestly at a glance, you don't even notice that the polish has an extra element to it. Otherwise, it just kind of looks like a creme polish. It's hard to detect the hollow unless like you're really looking at your nail and then you're like, ooh, what's this little sparkly thing, you know? That's how subtle this hollow is. And then of course I had to test how these polishes work over black and white, and I don't think they suit these contrasty types of colors. I think these would pair well with like something similar to what the base color is, so another pale yellow would work fine. Now moving on to this cute little number here. This is Dollhouse. Now I describe this as a sage green base with the same dusting hollow throughout. ilnp describes this as a minty green. I think later on in the comparison section of this video, you'll see that depending on the color shade that's next to this polish, it can be seen as like a minty green, but it could also be seen as something similar to the sage green family. So first coat for me, same as the Lunchbox one. It was a little bit on the sheer end, so I needed to go in with a second coat. The second coat did cover most of my patchiness. However, I must have not like swiped in the middle because it looks like it pooled in the center of the nail, so that resulted in me having to go in with a third coat. And I think at this point I'm dubbing third coats as tradition for this collection, even if I feel like a third coat isn't necessary in terms of coverage. So with the third coat, I felt like I got the full coverage that I like. However, I feel like I still see some patchy areas, and I can't tell if it's just because I fumbled with the first coat and not actually properly distributing the polish. So I think in terms of full coverage, a third coat would definitely do it. And then if you have even smaller nails, and like if I were to swatch my pinky, I would feel like 2 coats would suffice for my pinky because it's a smaller nail. Now with this shade, I do think that the hollow pairs really nicely with it. It does still give off a little grayness to it, but again, these are muted colors, and then the added factor of the gray just kind of enhances that little look. Ideally, and I can't believe I'm saying this, ideally, I wish I could wear this in one coat. So what I think I'll do is wear a similar shade of creme and then apply one coat of this, because I love how ethereal it looks on one coat. These low-rise jeans are a light faded denim wash with a small hollow dusting intertwined. So this polish is called Low Rise, and I was so impressed by how denim looking this shade is. Like I went and looked for my jeans because I definitely have a pair of this shade, and it almost looks exactly the same. It's crazy how they encapsulated the blue denim into a polish, and you'll see in the comparisons video, but like I have nothing like this. In some of the comparisons it looks green leaning, in some other comparisons it looks totally different. It's just one of those illusion colors, if you will. Anyway, this formula is the exact same as the other two we have swatch, so a little hollow dusting here and there. First coat was a little patchy. Second coat came in clutch with giving us more coverage. And I feel like with this one, it's because it's a darker shade that on two coats, I felt like I had plenty of coverage. But again, I dubbed third coat as tradition, so I went in with a third coat just to see how deeper the blue becomes, because this is a Crelly formula. It is buildable. And so I feel like as I add more, the deeper it'll become. I also feel like with the more coats, the more denim it looks. So if you wanted to do the Canadian tuxedo, I think this is the polish to do it with. And something about this formula that I realized is that it dries glossy. Like it almost looks like I have a top coat on. And when I do the finger wiggle of going side to side, up and down, that's the polish completely dried on my nail. And you can tell that it's extremely glossy, but I still recommend that you put a glossy top coat because it's a protective barrier and it should help in preventing your nails from chipping. So again, to showcase how it looks over black and white, I try to make the application as even as possible, but it's so patchy that I'm finding it harder and harder to justify using it as a topper, in my opinion. Moving on, we have Scrunchie, and this one I describe as a periwinkle base color with the same dusting of hollow. Like on the first coat, it looks more purple leaning, which kind of made me second guess my whole periwinkle declaration, but as the polish dries down and as more coats gets added, it kind of has more of a blue undertone. Something that I absolutely love, like 100% true love about this formula, is the self-leveling. It is insanely good how it self-levels. And it's like magic seeing it in person, just kind of waiting for the polish to dry, and like you think it would show any like streakiness, or sometimes when the polish kind of pools on one certain area of the nail, it doesn't. It just levels itself out beautifully. Like I need y'all to experience this. So Canadian people, stay strong. If you are able to get anything from this collection, I'm hoping you're as satisfied as I am with the self-leveling. Now for me, I felt like I got good coverage on the second coat. I do have an indent on the top middle of my nail, which sometimes gives the illusion that there's a patchy spot in my nail. That's not the case. Usually if I go in with a third coat, the indent kind of gets covered up, kind of like a pothole on the road. So again, per tradition, I went in with a third coat, and in that third coat I was able to smooth out my nail completely, and you can tell when the light bounces off the nail that it's still a little bit squiggly on the middle tip because of my indent, but it's not as severe as it was on the second coat. I really like this polish. I like the color. I like how dainty the hollow looks with this specific shade. So this one's a strong contender for me for being the favorite of the collection. Moving on to Claire, this is what I describe a light gray leaning cool tone baby pink with the same dusting of hollow going throughout. So I'm thinking this is related to like, well, I don't know if it's still going on, but I think back in the early 2000s, Claire's was the hangout place for most people, I believe. I could be completely wrong. This is all just speculation, but I'm trying to piece together why these names match the vibe of this collection. And I don't know what era this collection is trying to be. It's giving Y2K, but I also don't really know if this is Y2K, because Claire's I think is very Y2K to me. But anyway, similar to the other polishes, first coat little patchy, second coat came in with more coverage, and I feel like with this one I definitely got full coverage for my nail length, but I did go in with a third coat to see how one, the color deepened and how the coverage changes. And of course with a third coat it like evens out my nail beautifully, like as if I have no imperfections because of this crazy self-leveling that this formula has. The only thing I wish ILNP would do for us is honestly switch these brushes to the round paddle brush. I feel like application would be so much easier specifically for these shades with that other brush style. Like these current flat squared off ones work really great for my thumb because it's a square thumb essentially. Like my cuticle line is straight, it's a square, but I wish it was just wider. Like I wish it was a wider brush because I think I have to do like, I don't know, it feels like 6 strokes until I can encompass the entire nail with polish. So yeah, this is another one where the hollow works perfectly well with it, and also another one where I don't feel like it's a great choice to be a topper on top of contrasty colors just because of how creamy it is, and it's hard to get an even leveled single coat. And whoa, looky here, we have another pink. This one is called Dear Diary, and this one for me, I describe it as almost a bubblegum pink. What I noticed right away from the first coat is that it applied nicely. It applied not so patchy like its predecessors. It was nice, and I enjoyed how it looked in one coat, like as a cute little tint of pink on the nail. So I don't know if I just changed the way I swatch, I don't feel like I did, or if I just finally nailed down this formula and was able to advance swatch my nail finally. When I went in with the second coat, I felt like I got full coverage. Like I don't feel like I needed the third coat that I do per tradition. I think I prefer this shade of pink more than the Claire one. I like how vibrant it is, and even though it does have the same hollow fragments in there, it's not as gray leaning as Claire's is. Here's my other beef that I have with ILNP. Why do we have 2 pinks? Was it necessary? I don't think so. I feel like we could have saved one of the pinks to another collection and named it something different. Like this could have just been a simple 5-shade collection. I don't feel like we needed another pink in the collection, but that's just me. I don't see the point when some shades are really close to each other on why they needed to be included in this collection. And not just with this collection specifically, in general. Like I think Mooncat is more notorious for including a couple of shades being very similar to others within the same collection, and sometimes it just feels like it's for the sake of having more polishes in the collection versus the colors actually telling a story. And what is the story with this collection? It's supposed to be nostalgia, right? So I think one shade of pink can definitely bring about nostalgia with the proper name. Moving on to comparisons, up here we have Lunchbox compared to Holo Taco's Banana Hacks, and you can tell right away that Lunchbox is almost green leaning compared to Banana Hacks, which I call almost a true yellow in a sense. And then Lunchbox and the gray hollow just aren't doing it. Next is Lunchbox compared to Holo Taco's Banana Medicine. So Banana Medicine is the somewhat lighter version and less contrasty version of Banana Hacks. So I thought maybe that could kind of help, but Banana Medicine is not as gray leaning as Lunchbox is. Of course, it doesn't have the hollow in it that kind of enhances that gray tonality that Lunchbox has. So there's that. And then I have here Lunchbox with Holo Taco's Butter Me Up. and this is one of the palest yellows that I have in my collection. And again, not at all similar to what Lunchbox is. Lunchbox almost giving a chartreuse type of vibe, a little green leaning, so not exacts anywhere in this kingdom. It was actually kind of hard to find any yellows that I felt could potentially pair up with Lunchbox. So then I thought, okay, Lunchbox leans a little green. What else is technically yellow but leans green? And I thought of Holo Taco's High Def. And High Def is more of a true jelly. Lunchbox is acrylic, so one opacity is different, but the color is completely opposites of each other. Like one is vibrant, the other one is very muted and dull. Moving on to Dollhouse. This one I had quite the number of greens that I wanted to compare it to. The first one being Holo Taco's Matcha Maker. And I mean, you could tell how distinctly different these two are. In here, it looks more blue leaning now compared to Matcha Maker. So yeah, not exactly dupes or if anything. So then I wanted to compare it to something that I consider minty green, and that is Holo Taco's Crime and Punishment. And compared to that one, Dollhouse looks more sagey than it does mint for me. Of course, Crime and Punishment doesn't have holo integrated in it to make it lean gray of any sorts. But yeah, not exacts. So then I thought, why not compare it to polishes that I know are sagey in their description. And here I have Holo Taco's Time After Time. And I think this one is the closest in terms of base color. Of course, not in terms of formula, but you can put a scattered holographic topper on top if you want somewhat of the same vibe. Another sagey type of color, I have here Holo Taco's Touch Grass. And Holo Taco's Touch Grass is a little bit too saturated compared to Dollhouse, so not exacts in this department either. Then I wanted to compare it to another sagey green that has some form of holo in it, and that is Mooncat's Love's Labyrinth. And the holo is just a little too strong to even properly see the sagey green, but it's there. But again, not exacts. Then here I have it next to Mooncat's Devil's Ivy, and this is a magnetic polish. So when I'm comparing it, I have it unmagnetized, and this type of green is very dark compared to Dollhouse. And in here, Dollhouse actually looks more true minty green than it did compared to the other ones. Lastly, I have Dollhouse compared to Mooncat's Sagebrush, and this one is a thermal right now. In the bottle, it's showing dark. However, when it goes in the warm state, it's this light sagey green, and it has that scattered holographic pigment throughout. So in the warm stage, I feel like this one's also very close. However, due to the different types of properties it has, these are no way near each other. Moving on to Low Rise, and this is another one where I had kind of a hard time trying to pick other polishes to compare it to, just because the tonality of it shifts around depending on what shade is next to it. So here up first, I have it compared to Holo Taco's Scientific, which clear as day, not at all near each other. Then I try to find a more muted blue, and I thought of Holo Taco's Bep Bep Blue. And Bep Bep Blue leans a little bit more purple now compared to Low Rise, and Low Rise almost has this, like, I don't know, teal tint to it. It's a very shifty color, I will say. So not exacts. Lastly, I wanted to compare it to a polish that is filled with some holo, and this is Holo Taco's Spyglass. And similar to Bep Bep Blue, Spyglass in this comparison leans a little bit more purple, whereas Low Rise kind of has its own unique flare of blue, so not exacts. Moving on to comparisons for Scrunchie. Up first, I have Holo Taco's Wild Child. Because Holo Taco just recently released their Cottage Core collection, which is muted pastels, I thought maybe there was a chance that these two muted purples could vibe with each other, but clearly they are very different. So because I described Scrunchie as a periwinkle, I thought of comparing it to another periwinkle shade. And here I have Holo Taco's Perisocial. Perisocial is leaning way more purple than Scrunchie is. Scrunchie here shows more of a blue little tint to it. So then I thought maybe I try to get my more bluer leaning purple a shot, and I thought of Holo Taco's I'm Live, and we can see how purple I'm Live is. So again, no exacts here. This is a very unique shade of purple for me. And so for my last polish, I thought of comparing it to Mooncat's To All Who Ghosted Me, since it is technically more gray leaning, but even then it's appearing more purple than Scrunchie is. So again, Scrunchie is just on their own league of purples, it seems. Since I had such a qualm with there being two pinks, I thought of comparing them to each other. So here we have Claire compared to Dear Diary, and in here you can literally tell how different these two are, in that Claire is more gray leaning and very light and muted compared to how vibrant Dear Diary appears. So I went on the hunt for another somewhat muted pink with some holo, and I have here Holo Taco's Blush Money, and despite it almost looking similar in the bottle, on the nail, Blush Money is a more prominent pink, and the holographic pigments are very different as well, so not exacts. So then I thought, what if I compare it to more of a nude polish? And this is Mooncat's Quicksand's Embrace. And Quicksand's Embrace is more of an actual nude shade where it has a little bit of a brown tint. And then Claire here shows itself to be more prominent pink. So not exacts. Moving on to Dear Diary, I have here Holo Taco's Blush Money, which was too pink and vibrant for Claire, but next to Dear Diary, it's almost giving the same shade of pink. Dear Diary is just a little bit more bright compared to Blush Money, and of course the holo pigments is very different. And lastly, I wanted to compare Dear Diary to Holo Taco's Life in Plastic, which, if you look at the bottles, Holo Taco's Life in Plastic is an in-your-face hot pink. So absolutely no discrepancies here in that they are different. And that concludes the swatch and comparisons portion of this video. I do want to apologize that I didn't provide any different lighting shots. It was very gray where I live, and so there was no sun to be able to take any sun shots. And it doesn't look like I'll get any sun this week either. It'll be partly cloudy, so who could say if I'll get any sun during that time. So again, apologies for not being able to provide how these polishes look like in different lighting. So my overall thoughts on this collection is that it's a very youthful collection. So the things that the polishes are named after is what brings about memories of the past, essentially, for me, and kind of makes me go through the memory bank to see if I have interacted with any of these items. Like dollhouse, never had one as a child. I was not a doll person. They always creeped me out, and I was more of a tomboy, and so I liked Hot Wheels and yeah, cars were my thing, but now I don't do anything with cars. But that's mainly because I got more into my femininity and all that stuff. And then low-rise jeans, I definitely remember those. Do I recall if I wore them? I don't know. Probably did, because what kid isn't trying to be on trend during the middle school and high school years, you know? But yeah, overall, it's a very nostalgic collection and definitely makes me, you know, think of young Yanelli and how she was doing and stuff. So just reiterating some of the kerfuffles that I have with this collection is that the brushes, I feel like the brushes should be the wide rounded brushes, and mainly because they provided said brushes during the watercolor collection and those are just jellies. I know that Crellies and jellies are different, like Crellies are more milky whereas jellies are more watery in the way that I process them now. And with the watercolor collection, we got those rounded wide brushes and it does make application better. So Crellies and jellies, they're different, but they're still in the same family. So it makes sense to me that this formula would perform better in terms of application versus this skinny square brush. And then we have Lunchbox, which I love a good yellow. I wanted to like Lunchbox, but it just looks like lint is trapped in between each coat. The first coat was very cute because it didn't have that layered effect with the hollow, and the hollow, you know, it shined properly. It didn't give off this linty vibe, but as you applied more coats, it just looked progressively more like lint, and it just totally ruined the cute factor that this polish has. Like, I love the color of yellow that this polish has. I just wish that maybe the hollow fragments themselves weren't silver hollow, but maybe a yellow hollow. I think that exists. Just something to match what the base is so it doesn't contrast itself and it doesn't look like lint. And then lastly, the two pinks. So I don't really see the point of two pinks. I said it in the video already, but I really do feel like one of the pinks could have been chosen for this collection and the other one could have been saved for a different collection. Like, we would have never known. And instead of two pinks, I would have preferred one pink and then an orange. I feel like an orange is always missing. Why is an orange always missing? Anyway, that's gonna be it for me. Thank you so much for watching, hanging out with me. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know any and all your thoughts down below and we can chat about it. Will you be getting the entire collection, only some? Were these nostalgic for you as they were for me? Or is this color palette just not up your alley at all? If you haven't already, please follow me on my Instagram. I usually post nail art tutorials and nail art pictures over there, as I forget that YouTube Shorts exist sometimes and then forget to upload it on YouTube. So if you're into nail art, go ahead and give my Instagram account a follow. If you like to see more ilnp swatches, click somewhere here and I will lead you to a playlist of the previous ilnp collections I've done. And with that, I'll see you next time. Bye.